Tipuana, Sang Nila Utama, about 1299 to 1347. According to Malay lore, Sang Nila Utama was a prince from Palembang in present-day Indonesia. It is said that he was married to Princess Wan Sendari, the daughter of his chief minister Damang Labaraldon. Sang Nila Utama, his wife, and his entourage voyaged to a place called Tanjong Bemban. The party gathered sea flowers from rocks and made sport among tangles of rotang creepers. Meanwhile, the princess and her attendants sat under an aloe or pandan tree and adorned themselves with local flowers like tertam, tern, and sangay bread. Some of the plants they might have encountered are showcased here. While out hunting one day, Sang Nila Utama came across and scaled a towering boulder. From its peak, he spotted an island called Temasek in the distance. He sailed here and established a settlement, which he named Singapura. After reigning for 48 years, he died and was buried in the present-day Fort Canning Hill. Here's a view of the Pandan. And here's the story. Sang Nila Utama set forth in the royal yacht and a fleet so large that it could not be counted. At Tanjong Bambang, Sang Nila Utama went on a hunt while his wife and ladies in waiting picnicked on the beach. They hunted down many animals except a deer. This must be a super deer. The deer's running around with a spearman. The chase ended by a very high rock. And she crawls up, and there's, what rock is that? A land called Temasek, Your Highness. He built a city called Singapore. The year was AD 1299. Sang Nila Utama died in AD 1347 and was buried on a hill known today as Fort Canning. His elder son Paduka Sri Pikrama Vira succeeded him. Paduka Sri Pikrama Vira, 1348 to 1362. Paduka Sri Pikrama Vira was the son of Sang Nila Utama and the second ancient king of Singapura. Under his rule, Singapura flourished into a great city and soon caught the eye of foreign empires. The Raja of Majapahit in Java heard of Singapura's rising power and sought to make it his vassal. However, diplomatic exchanges turned sour as Paduka Sri Pikrama Vira defied their attempts to assert authority over Singapore. Angered, the Majapahits invaded Singapura. However, Paduka Sri Pikrama Vira successfully defended the settlement and ruled for another 15 years. A collection of maja trees, Aegil marmelos, is planted here. Maja is the Javanese name of this tree from the citrus family and the origin of the name Majapahit. The round shape of this fruit symbolized the king's central place in the realm, while its white sap symbolized royal blood. The leaves of the maja. Here's the maja. And the comic reads, meanwhile, over in Majapahit, the Britra, the ruler of Singapore thinks he's a big shot. We'll show him who's boss. Woohoo! He sent his envoys to Singapore with a paper-thin wood shaving 7 fathoms long, rolled to look like a girl's ear stud. Greetings, Your Highness. Can your craftsman make this ear stud? Let me introduce you to our finest craftsman, the one and only, Sang Bitan. Sang Bitan, show our distinguished visitors what you can do with your tool, which is not blunt, of course. There. Shish. Back in Majapahit, I saw with my very own eyes what they did with this great one. They want us to be Dogo? What an insult! As a result, Majapahit attacked Singapura. But it lost. The Majapahit army fled. Paduka Sri Pikrama Vira died in AD 1362 after 15 years on the throne. His son Raja Muda, whose royal title was Sri Rana Wikrama, succeeded him. Sri Rana Wickrama, 1363 to 1374. Sri Rana Wickrama was Paduka Sri Pikrama Weera's son and the third ancient king of Singapura. During his reign, a legendary strongman named Badang served in his court. Badang was granted superhuman strength by a mythical demon he had caught stealing his fish. One of his greatest feats was throwing a giant stone from Fort Canning Hill to the mouth of the Singapore River in a contest against another strongman from Kalinga. This stone later became known as the Singapore Stone. One day, Sri Rana Wickrama ordered Badang to gather leaves from a tall kuras tree, for him to eat. Using the trunk of a kempas tree as an oar, Badang sailed in a boat to Kuala Sayang, the place where kuras trees grew. As he climbed the tree, however, its branches snapped and he fell onto a boulder. Badang was unhurt, but the rock was cracked in two, and thereafter named the Split Stone. Here is a view of the kuras tree. Here's a view of the kempas tree. And the comic reads, Rajamuda had a warrior, Badang, who got his super strength from eating a demon's vomit. Is there anything worse than this? He says. Badang could uproot huge trees, so Rajamuda made him a war chief. Ta-da! The Raja of Kalang was, on hearing about Badang, sent his strongest warrior to Singapura. I bet 7 ships you can beat him anytime. No problem, he says. It was a rock lifting contest and the Kalinga warrior had difficulties. Badang swung it in the air and hurled it across the Singapore River. And he said, Yo! Ayo, there goes my king's 7 ships of cargo. When Rajamuda died in AD 1375, he was succeeded by his son Dhamraja. Mural wall. These sandstone mural carvings depict a sequence of historical scenes from pre-colonial Singapore between the 14th and 18th centuries. The 2 carved mural walls are each about 14 meters long and 1.8 meters high. The carvings are done on Brexy stones originating from Java and were carved by sculptors in Bali. The pieces were then shipped and assembled in Singapore. The mural carvings were created and designed by Mr. Eng Siak Loy, an acclaimed artist. Mr. Eng has won several awards in numerous art competitions. He is also known for designing various sets of Singapore stamps, coins, and currency notes. The wall. Sri Sultan Iskandar Shah, 1389 to 1398. Sri Sultan Iskandar Shah was the son of Paduka Sri Maharaja and the 5th and last king of ancient Singapura. His reign ended with the fall of Singapura to the Majapahids. Iskandar Shah believed that one of his concubines had committed adultery and shamed her in a public market. The concubine's father was enraged and betrayed the city of Singapura by opening its defensive gates to an invading Majapahit army. With Singapura overrun by enemy forces, Iskandar Shah fled to Muar in Johor and later to Malacca. There, he established the Sultanate of Malacca and ruled for 20 years until 1420. The old city of Malacca was named after the Malacca tree, which grew along the banks of the Airlil River and are now planted along this path. The comic reads, when the Sultan took a new mistress, the daughter of Treasury Officer Sang Rajnatapa, the other mistresses got jealous. They destroyed her reputation. You know what your new mistresses just did? Is that so? How disgusting! The girl was executed in the marketplace. They were so cruel to my daughter. Dear Bata of Majapahit, attack Singapura! I shall help from within. At the Batara's court, now we can pluck Singapura like a ripe papaya. A battle began. After several days of fighting, how come my men are not fed? But there is no more rice, your highness. And at dawn, Sang Rajnatapa opened the gates of the fort. Ah, thank you, sir. Sultan Iskandar fled towards Selatar and later founded Malacca. He said, time to open up a new city. Sang Nila Utama Garden. Sang Nila Utama was the legendary founder of ancient Singapore. He was a prince of Palembang, the capital of the kingdom of Srivijaya in present-day Indonesia. It is said that he landed on this island in 1299 and named it Singapura, meaning Lion City. He crowned himself king and built his royal palace on this hill. The garden you are about to enter is named after Singapore's first king, as recorded in the Malay annals, and reimagines the ancient royal garden of Singapura, once located on this hill. Gardens were integral parts of all early Southeast Asian palaces. They were oases of serenity meant for the king to meditate or entertain guests in seclusion. As such, they were separated from the outside world by high walls constructed from bricks, the only non-perishable building material used in ancient Singapore apart from sandstone. Within the ancient royal garden, fruit trees and flowering plants were grown in abundance, and their fruits and fragrant flowers were often used as religious offerings. Explore the garden to discover some of the plants once found in the ancient gardens and their significance within our regional culture. Here we have a picture of the 14th century Majapahit era brick split gate, Traluan, East Java. The inspiration for this brickwork and architecture of this garden were taken from the Majapahit era brick ruins in Traluan. Look that way. The significance of elevated ground. The royal palace of 14th century ancient Singapore was located on present-day Fort Canning Hill, overlooking the Singapore River. In traditional Buddhist, Hindu, and Jain beliefs, the mythical abode of the gods was a sacred peak called Mount Meru. As such, hills and mountains were associated with kingship and divinity in ancient Southeast Asia. Just like other early Malay capitals, Palembang and Malacca, Singapore was thus built on elevated ground overlooking a river. The hill represented Mount Meru, and the palace atop it, a godly place. Here's a picture of building the palace on Forbidden Hill. And there's the hill. Flower garden. The flower garden is planted with many floral species that would once have been present in the ancient palace garden. As a place of pleasure and relaxation, visitors to the flower garden will be greeted with a kaleidoscope of colors. Many of the flowers also had a deeper symbolic meaning. Orchard. The orchard boasts a wide collection of fruit trees which would have supplied the palace kitchens with fruits. Many of these fruits are still consumed and used for cooking today. 9-pound cannon. This cannon is one of a pair which for many years were used as decorations for the main gate at Fort Canning. They were designed to fire 9-pound cannonballs. Such cannons were never used at Fort Canning. They date back to the early 19th century and had become obsolete before Fort Canning was built in the 1850s. This pair of cannons was probably used at an earlier fortification, such as Scandal Point, which once stood at the east end of the Badang. Percival Road. This road was named after Lieutenant General Arthur Ernest Percival, who was General Officer Commanding Malaya from 1941 to 1942. Percival's efforts to hold Malaya and Singapore in the face of the Japanese attack during World War II were hampered by the lack of support from both the War Office and the colonial government. The rapidity and audacity of the Japanese advance in Malaya left the troops demoralized. Nevertheless, Percival carried out orders to fight to the end. On 15 February 1942, the fierce Battle of Singapore reached its peak when General Yamashita Tomoyuki, the Japanese commander of the 25th Army, captured Bukit Timah and made the Ford Motor Factory his headquarters. As conditions in the city grew desperate, the British decided to surrender Singapore to the Japanese. Percival, accompanied by Brigadier K.S. Torrance, Brigadier T.K. Newbiggings, and Captain Cyril H.D. Wild, the interpreter, went to the Ford Motor Factory carrying the Union Jack flag and the white flag symbolizing surrender. Upon fierce pressure from General Yamashita for an unconditional surrender, Percival signed the Singapore surrender document. Percival took personal responsibility for the defeat of the British forces and spent the rest of the war in Japanese custody. After the war, he returned to England, where he led a quiet life until he died in 1966. Here's Lieutenant General Percival, Wright, and other British officers on the way to Ford Factory at Bukit Timah to surrender, marking the beginning of the Japanese occupation of Singapore.